Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome our fabulous speaker today, Ray.
Hi, I'm what's left of Ray, and I'm an alcoholic. Have you all seen the jacket? Because I have to bring it back by 3. I want to thank Devora for asking me to speak today. I was really I was the last minute. I was really going to be the end of the year, the end of her term speaker, but she had a cancellation, so here I am. And there we are. Now, where am I going from here? You know, as long as I've been around I haven't spoken here, I haven't spoken anywhere in about 13 or 14 years. The last time I spoke was here or in a synagogue. And if you heard me, you're going to hear it again. But, let's see, you don't mind if I take this off? Did I look okay, though? Boy, what a gang. What a gang. Oh, thanks. No, I'll hold it. Never mind. I'm kidding. It's good to be here. I've been on, I got to tell you, I've been on a program, it'll be 27 years. I have to check with my 28 years. It'll be 28 years that I've been sober. And before that, I was a falling down drunk. I got to tell you that I've also been married for 37 years, and it's like the first day. And sometimes I wonder where I failed, because so many people I know have been married 4, 5, 6 times, and I've got the same wife, and I don't know where I went wrong. And but life has been very good to me, and here I am. And my pitch doesn't even go for this generation. I got to tell you the truth. So you can all leave. I couldn't figure out where alcoholism came. I was the youngest of 5 in my family, 5 kids, and I was the youngest. And we were born in Hoboken, New Jersey, and Hoboken, and our claim to fame was going to school, not me, but my older brothers and sisters, with Frank Sinatra, who lived around the corner from him, and we watched him progress. And anybody remember Frank Sinatra here? Good. And I was growing up at the end of the Depression, and when you live out here in Southern California and the sun is shining all the time and you got the beaches and life is wonderful and great, you don't remember the way it used to be. But when I was a little kid, maybe 12, 13 years old, I remember putting cardboard in my shoes because we didn't have soles, and we had lived on pasta and potatoes, and there was no food, and we weren't alone because that was the end of the Depression and everybody was broke. And we lived on, my father lost his health. We moved from Hoboken down to the Lower East Side of New York. We lived on the 6th floor of a cold water flat. The toilet was in the hall. 6 families used the same toilet, if you can picture this. And the bathtub was in the kitchen, and it was cold water. We schlepped, in case anybody knows the word schlepped up cold for 25 cents a bag, and froze our tail off in the winter and died in the summer. But there was no money, and nobody had anything. And so that's how I went to school. And everybody I had a wonderful life when I was a kid down there, about 14 years old at the latest. And in school, you had all kinds of people, and we lived together, and everything was great. And we all shared the one thing, which was no money. But when you're young and stupid, you don't realize how broke you are. And there was nothing. And to find a nickel was a paradise. I remember finding 2 nickels in a phone booth, and I thought I died and went to heaven. And And then somehow or other we put together a few bucks, and we ended up by moving over to a little town in northern New Jersey. And it was at that point, because as I said, there was no alcoholism in my family, and I tried to figure out what it was that had turned me into what I was. And incidentally, I might add, I don't want to break anybody's heart, but I never took any drugs. And I never smoked a funny cigarette. And I just loved alcohol. I still think about alcohol every now and then. After all these years, my choice was a martini. I was a gentleman drinker, unless I drank it out of the bottle. And that was my choice, and I drank some decent scotch and a cheap wine, or a decent wine. No cheap. No, I had a reputation to maintain. But at any rate, which reminds me of the time I was loading cheap gin into a Beefeater bottle. And nobody ever came to see me anyway. I don't know who I was trying to impress. But anyway, we moved over to this little town. And that was when I knew that my life was changed as of that little town, in which I shared once before. A lot of people here certainly don't relate, and I hope you don't relate to this, but I went into this place. I went into school, and I remember that the teacher gave me the principal gave me a card where to go to, you know, what class. And I went up to the class, and I went in. The class was all formed. Everybody was sitting around there, and all the kids, they all looked like they had the same father. But they all wore shirts and neckties, and a necktie was like God knows what. But anyway, I went over and I gave the teacher my card, which the principal had given me, and that one line was where it all began, because she said to me, "What religion are you?" And I mean, today they hang them for that, but in those days it was common practice. It was at a time when a lot of my people of my faith were being marched into gas chambers, and it was on the headlines every single day, so it was uppermost in a lot of people's mind. But I told her what my religion was, and she put me in the last row in the last seat when there were closest seats. And then she brought me up. Then she brought me up to the head of by the window, and I've always been meticulous about my personal hygiene, etc. But she took me up in front of the class, and she ran a tongue depressor through my hair as though she was looking for lice. And when I went out into the courtyard, at the recess, nobody would come near me. And all the time I was in the school, that was the way it was. So I was alone, and I was different, and I didn't fit in. And you know, when you're at that time, I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and so it affected me. I ended up going into high school, and I had to quit school. Of course, and I couldn't tell it to my mother or my father, and I was embarrassed. I was ashamed, and I was coming home. One day I came home beaten up and bloodied, and I was skin and bones. When I was a kid growing up, you wouldn't know it today, but I was very thin, and I came home, and my mother saw that my ear was bleeding, and she said, "What happened to you?" And I told her, and she said that she reminded me that I was one of the chosen people, and that was my first one-liner, because I said, "I hope that God chooses somebody else, because I don't know how much longer I can handle this." And I mean, how lucky can you get? And so anyway, that was it. I had to leave school. I remember that where we lived, there was they would come down in the morning, and there would be swastikas painted on the window, and it was a hell of a way to be brought in. And so anyway, I figured that I got to better learn how to protect myself a little bit. And so on my 17th birthday, I went down and made another decisive, not stupid, but made another decision, and I went down on my 17th birthday, and I joined the Marine Corps, and that took in certain stages of my life. You know, the school I remember, and the Marine Corps I remember, and then I'll get into my marriage later, but I don't want to talk about that right now. And but I joined the Marine Corps, and I got into my boot camp. I was still in civilian clothes. I'll never forget, I was 17 years old. and I was scared to death. And we got off the train, and they brought us over to the boot camp, and I'm standing there, and 17 years old, scared to death, and I'm chewing gum, though, try to maintain my composure. And a DI, and this was the old Marine Corps, I don't know if they do this today, but the DI comes over to me, and he gives me a right to the jaw. He knocked me down, he kicked me in the ribs, and he bent down to me, and he said, "We don't chew gum in the Marine Corps." And I have never to this day chewed a goddamn stick. I was going to make sure that never happened to me again. And, I never have told a war story. I won't tell any now. So, except funny stories. And when I think about it, there weren't too many funny stories. But I was overseas a long time. I did 21 months in places like Guadalcanal and Bonica and the Marshall Islands and Okinawa. And I did 21 months over, came back for 6, got in trouble over alcohol, got busted down from sergeant to corporal, shanghaied out at midnight on another ship. Went into the Marshall Islands. I did another 16, so I ended up with 37 months being overseas. And that was where alcoholism really fit in, because I remember if you had the time, if you were in an area where you had maybe 15 or 18 days, you could make your own garbage. You'd make what you called raisin jack, in case anybody here is broke and you want to go back out again. Well, here's all you have to do. You get a cask, and you take raisins, and you take yeast, and you take sugar, and then you cover it with you don't have to cover it with mosquito netting here, but you cover it with mosquito netting, and then you let it ferment for 15 days. I hope you appreciate what I'm going through here for you. And at the end of 15 days, you would then take a strainer of sorts or whatever you could get and scrape out the maggots and the bugs and the fleas and the lice. And they were good. Any port in a storm, and you drank that, and it was fantastic. It really was. I never really appreciated that until today. And the other things I used to drink of, and they began to call me. Well, anyway, I was drinking a lot of Menon shaving lotion. Now, Menon shaving lotion is I still use it because I remember when it was there for me. And I'm I don't forget, but I remember when the ships, the Navy would pull in, and these guys would give anything in the world to get a flag or a samurai sword or a rifle or anything like that. And I would go, I would go aboard the ships, and I would trade any, the samurai swords and the rifles and flags and anything else, any souvenir that I could get, and I would trade it off for any alcohol or Menon shaving lotion. And I would walk off the ship with a case of Menon here and a case of Menon there. And anyway, that was my drinking. So I kind of stayed all the time I was overseas. I stayed in a not all the time, but a lot of the time. And I had everything. I had malaria over 20 times. I had yellow jaundice. My eyeballs were yellow. My skin was well. I think I weighed 15 pounds. I looked like death warmed over. And but somehow or other, it was. I came home and all was well. Now, what the one thing that stays with me is that I was on Okinawa, and we got a false report that the war was over. We thought that the war was over, so we were going to celebrate it. So we broke into a warehouse, and we got what we thought was alcohol. It turned out to be alcohol. It was used in airplanes. And it was a terrible thing because it really was, because we celebrated the end of the war, which wasn't. And we ended up that night, and my mother had saved the newspapers for me to see, because just by coincidence. And but that night there were 7, as my memory remembers, there were 7 Marines died from this crap, and 5 or 6 or 7 lost their sight. And I'm told that sight doesn't come back. And so, and I was out for 3 days. I was more dead than alive. But here I had a cast iron stomach and still do. And anyway, that what happened. And then the end of the war, and we went over. I came home. I was going to stay in the Corps. Here's my watch. I was going to stay in, but not brain damage. When I was drinking, I remember here at the end, sometime before the end, I went to the doctor and he said, you know, if you keep drinking, you're going to really lose your memory. And you know, that son of a bitch was right. I really don't remember a hell of a lot. But funniest thing, I don't know what happened this morning, but I can go back 50, 60 years. Anyway, I came out of the Corps and I got into traveling, and I traveled my life away. I was what you might call a specialty type salesperson, and we won't even go into that. But I was traveling all the time. I made a pretty good living. I looked, Gloria, I almost said I looked good. But I did look pretty good. And my uniform of the day, I used to wear a Homburg hat, a black cashmere coat, gray suede clothes. Oh, I didn't have to say that. And but anyway, that was what I traveled, and I lived on the road for years in India. And I would drink absolutely on a daily basis. I was drunk, but I worked all the eight. I'd be up 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, shave, shower, get dressed, and hit the road in a rent-a-car, going wherever there was a possibility of a deal. And anyway, at night sometimes, you know, I was single. But at night sometimes I'd meet something at the bar, and someone at the bar. I'd meet a sweet young thing. And God, I hate to tell my sex life here, but I would end up so many times, as God is above me, coming back to my place, coming back to my room, and I remember them. I remember barely them. They would go in to freshen up a little bit, and while they would go in to freshen up a little bit, I would just shut my eyes for a minute so that I would be really refreshed. And I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and of course they'd be gone, and I would be lonesome. And to this day, if Gloria forgives me, I always wonder about all those that got away, you know. So I traveled, and I drank, and I drank, and I drank, and I was getting into fights and arguments, because my attitude used to be, when one has a friend tried and true, get him first before he gets you. My nickname in the Corps was One Way. You know what that means. It was okay for me, and that's it. And so I drank by myself. I'd get into arguments and fights and generally lose most of them, because they would always take advantage of me because I was so loaded. And well, that deserved a little more than I got. And anyway, so life went on for me. And then I was 41 years old, and or 40 at that time. I was 40 years old. And I was dating an awful lot and not knowing anything. And I happened to meet my wife, Gloria. I met her, and we met in a nice cocktail lounge. She was there with 2 other girls, one who had a horrendous situation, had just lost her son, and Gloria and the other girl was taking her out. And I was standing on the left, and I remember the bartender bought her a drink, brought him around, and Gloria said, thought it was me. She should have known better, but she said, excuse me, did you buy this round? And I said, no, I didn't buy this round. And about 2 minutes later, the girl next to her, one of her friends, said, talk to the fella next to you. He's cute. And I heard her say, he's a creep. But anyway, one day I proposed to her, and we got married. And we've been married 37 years. And I got to tell you something. When I've never been bored with that 99 pounds. Or 98, she'll correct me later. But it's really been great. When I married her, I got to tell you, I'm not going to tell her story, but she drank very little, and I showed her how to drink by God like a man. And honestly, she became worse than me. She did, and I remember one day, it was embarrassing to me. She wouldn't leave the house, and I'd be traveling, I'd be calling, she'd be loaded, I'd fight with her, she'd fight with me. She'd pick me up at the airport loaded, I'd be loaded. It was the end of the line. And one day I remember saying to her, Gloria, you've got to really slow down. You're not my size. And she said to me, I can't. She said, I can't. And I knew it. And I knew. And at any rate, she ended up by going to Al-Anon for a little while. And then one day she came back and she said to me that she said, we're going to go to an AA meeting. And she took us over to Rodeo, which was our first meeting. It had to be Beverly Hills, but anyway, that was the beginning, and that was 27 years ago. And I haven't had a drink since. I'd never touched another drop, and I had other problems. I've had three throat surgeries. 2 were from they thought they had. On my larynx, they were going to have to remove my larynx, my voice box. And from smoking, I hope I'm not going to ruin anybody's day who wanted to smoke. Because it was nothing. It wasn't, But when I went to never mind, it was very something. It scared the life out of me. And I never lit another cigarette when a doctor told me to quit. So anyway, we went on, and we've been going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and all this period of time, we go to meetings. God damn it, I forgot something. See, that doctor was right. Life has been very, very good for me. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. We survived plane crashes. I survived a long war. I survived 1,000 argument fights and stuff like that. And I go to meetings. We have a men's stag that I go to, the one there a block and a half west of Barrington on Wilshire, in the Indian restaurant. In case you show up, it's there 6 days a week. I'm participating there. I don't know how great I've been. I have the same sponsor I've had for 20. Jack, the same sponsor for 20-some years. When I was speaking one day, how things change in Alcoholics Anonymous. Kevin is here. Kevin was the one 11 years ago, kept on my case to join a gym. Join a gym. My wife and I go 6 days a week to the gym, 2 hours every morning, 6 days a week. I went into a meeting one day. I pitched, and I was sober about 3 years maybe, and I went into and there was a guy sitting in the front row, and he was there. And then I went into another meeting, and pitching again. This guy was there again. And one day I walked into Kenny's Deli down there on Wilshire and Bundy at the time, and he's sitting there again. He said, I heard you pitching about marketing and franchising and sales and all that business. He said, I got something I think that might go. And I was looking for anybody who would advance a check at that time, and he looked like it was easy. So I said, yeah, what is it? And he said, I think that people are going to have a video recorder, and they're going to show movies at home. And I said, yeah, what a hell of an idea. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And his name was George Atkinson. His name is George Atkinson. And I went with him, and this was before there was nobody. All you had generally was a few public domain movies, some adult material, and about 20 releases from 20th Century Fox. But I ran an ad in a newspaper, own your own video movie rental store. And I gave it a shot. And it ended up, I opened close to 300 stores for him. Then I left him. And with the other salesman and we opened up our own company, Video Biz. We ended up with 240 of our own stores all over the country. And Canada made nothing but money. And my partner was a drunk, and we were going public. And I won't tell you how much, because this is not a money meeting, but we were going public, and we were going to have an awful lot of money. And somehow or other, I still haven't gotten over it yet, but the deal fell through. We ended up by losing the company. We lost the company. And right after that, Blockbuster opened, and the rest is history. And but at any rate, I've been very fortunate and lucky because of Alcoholics Anonymous. My life changed physically as a result of somebody like Kevin, who pushed me into going to the gym, and George Atkinson, wherever he is today. I heard he's not doing that great. I wish he were, but he got me into a business that turned my life around that way. And so I've been very lucky. I haven't had to do anything in a lot of years. I haven't done anything in 16 years. My marriage is great, and I got I've done so many things impulsively, and without even talking to Gloria one day, I went in and I was sober. I know I was sober, but I went down impulsively and I had a vasectomy done, and it was right after our marriage, and it was such a dumb thing to do because my wife can't get enough of little kids, and every time we pass one, some of them are so goddamn ugly you can't stand, but she goes she goes bananas over every little thing that's this little, and I go bananas over the mothers, but not really. But anyway, it was dominant. It really affected. It doesn't affect her now, but unless she doesn't talk about it, because she knows how sensitive I am about it. But it bothers me to this very day of what I did, and I can't undo it. When we got married, of course, Gloria had a little girl, a little 12-year-old girl, and so she's my stepdaughter, but she could never be any closer. I love her with all my heart and soul. I've never, in all the years we've been married, had I even raised my voice to her or criticize or anything. She's just a 1 in a million shot. And I have a 10-year-old grandson. I'm not very good at playing games or anything like that, and so I don't know how good a grandpa I am. But I do the best I can. He was in a play last night. I went to see him. What more do you want? He was over here on Kent Street. He was over at Kent Street. He was in, and he had a good role there of the Lion King. The Lion King, and he was running around up and down on the stage. He's 10 years old, and he's a boy. He's 10 years old. I mean, I'm satisfied with that because that's what I got. But Gloria and Sonny are so feminine. I wish sometimes that Jake was a little girl, you know what I mean? Because I look at the girls on the stage, they're the cutest little things you ever saw, and little boys are little boys. I don't know what more I can add here. I think I'm watching the clock. I got 3 more minutes. What have I forgotten, Gloria? What? Oh! Look, I'm using all my time on O's. When I was a kid in the Marine Corps, just out of boot camp, it was my first liberty. I was with two other Marines, and we came out of a place called Sherman's, and the sailor was there, and he was drunk as a skunk, and he was saying that you had to be a psychotic nut to be a Marine, and I didn't know how he knew it. But we got this poor bugger into a tattoo parlor, and we were feeding him. I remember I held the orange labeled bottle of Mohawk Slow Gin, and I was feeding it to him, and we got his blouse off, and we had tattooed. Tattoo parlor didn't want to do it. Gave him an extra 10, which was all the money in the world then. And the tattoo parlor tattooed across his shoulder blades, U.S. Marines. I loved it. When Gloria and I used to go years ago, we used to go down to Puerto Vallarta a lot. And one day on our AA honeymoon, we must have been sober 6 months or a year or something like that. We're sitting on a blanket there, and we're probably reading the big book and or whatever, and probably whatever. And in goes this big bruiser of a guy. Now, and he's got on the back of his shoulder blades U.S. Marines. Well, I completely forgot. And, in the Corps, whenever you see another Marine, it's always Semper Fi, how you doing, buddy, and all that business, So I get up and I said, oh, look, Marine, I get up. And so help me. I go over to him and I said, hi. I said, I see you were in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps, and I put my hand out. And he said, I wasn't in the goddamn Marine Corps. And the minute he said that, I knew that there was something wrong. because I'm very quick. And he said he wasn't a Marine. He said, I was drunk one night in San Diego, and some Marines did this to me. I said to him, you know, that is without a doubt the worst story I've ever heard. So I go back to the blanket, and I said to Gloria, you're not gonna believe this. And I told her what happened, and she says, you know, Ray, this is your time to make amends. So I thought about it for about a half a second, and I didn't do it. But I always told Gloria that if we are ever in Mexico again, and I see him, listen, you know, seriously, it's been a ball. I've had a wonderful life in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got everything. I've got so many friends here, so many people like you. I walk in, people greet me and are actually anxious to see me instead of walking out of my way. And I could never have had that. I don't know if I ever deserved it, but I've got it here. And life is good, and I hope I said something that helped somebody. It saved my life and gave me what I've got in my wife there, and God bless you all, and thank you. Okay. Now, I'm only going to answer questions that I like. Now, who has a... Oh, you know, this is a setup. Because, wait, just a minute. Is that Richie? No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. You. No, I was looking behind you. You.
My name's Marsha.
Hello, Marsha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What character defect troubles you
The question, I know what to do. I'm kidding. What character defect troubles me the most? I'm compulsive and obsessive and impulsive. Or is the impulsive the same as compulsive? No. It's not? Okay, well, I'm all three. I'm very leery. I'm very leery. I'm nothing like I was. But those things are what trouble me now, and I know it troubles Gloria. I hope I answered your question. All right, Kenny, do it. Just be careful.
I have two questions.
You're allowed one.
Okay. How do you deal with your anger today, and could you tell us about the Chinese story in Chinatown?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Kenny wants to know, how do I control my anger today, and what happened in Chinatown? All right, I'll give you the story. That'll kill some of the questions. I don't know. My anger today, I lose it. Somebody cut me off last week, you know, and in Chicago, somebody did that, blasted the horn. I got out of the car to see what he wanted. He shoved a .38 into my nose, so help me God. I left to walk out the door. So I don't get angry, or at least I don't go after anybody. And that happened 35, 40 years ago. Anyway, this guy cut me off. I said, son of a... And I ran around. I got next to him, and there they are, 4 creeps with shaved heads. So I immediately said, I'm going to let him go this time. I'm not going And Kenny, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. No, I could offend people. I don't want to. But next year. Another question? Nobody's interested in what... Oh, Bruce, that's another setup. Go ahead, Bruce.
Ray, what is it like what is your concept of a higher power in your life?
He wants to know what is my concept of a higher power. I have felt all my life, because I am where I am today, and life has been so good for me, I feel that I have always had an angel on my shoulder. there were 61 people in my outfit, and I'm one of 3 that are still living. And you know, I'm not embarrassed to tell you, I'll be how old am I? I'll be 78 pretty quick, and you know, I feel pretty good. And what the hell is the question again? Oh, okay, I know what I remember. Remember, I told you I was very quick. I got to tell you the truth. My higher power, I have a higher power. I don't know what in God's name it is. I don't know what it is. I don't have a heck of a lot of feeling for, not to offend anyone, but for organized religion. I just feel that it's been responsible for every war and all the killing in the world from the beginning. So I don't have much feeling for organized religion per se. And but I know that, you know, if somebody gets himself killed here, and the next one who's sitting next to him says, I survived, and God saved me, and the other poor bugger didn't. You know, I have a lot of problems with that, and which you can understand. But I don't have too much feeling about organized religion whatsoever. I mean, to each his own. That's my feeling, and I believe that there's somebody been looking out for me all these years, and I'm grateful for whatever it is. If you want to call it God, it's fine by me. That's fine. But I know he's there or she's there. How's that? Another question? Back there.
What spiritual challenges are you facing today, and how are you meeting them?
Which spiritual challenges am I going through today, and how am I meeting them? My spiritual challenge today is the fact that I know I'm getting older. I've been reading. I read the obituaries religiously. Like somebody the other day, I don't know where it was, if somebody said, who wants to live to be 90 anyway? And I said, anybody who's 89, you know. I got to tell you the truth, if I knew this was that much fun, I would have done it sooner. I worry. My wife is very sufficient in everything she does. She was a breadwinner for herself, her daughter, her mother, and a sister that had been ill. So she's very capable, and not only that, but she's got it smarts up here. She's a psychotherapist, and she practiced on me a lot. So I know that she is okay, but I'm in a constant worry about her. I worry about her walking down the steps. I worry about her backing out of the driveway. I worry about a lot about my wife and my daughter, and I want us to stay alive. I just treasure. I treasure every minute that I'm with her. She sometimes would like me to go, you know, go shopping, go to a meeting, and I'd frankly rather be with her, and. Oh, Gloria. What can I do? I love the woman. I got one more question, Deborah. Deborah. Sure. One more. Kevin, my pal, Kevin.
Well, Ray,
Yes.
you thought about this religious persecution, so it's obvious you were raised a Mormon. But tell us about your spiritual experience in AA. Did you have one? How did you come about, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, for example?
What the hell did you say, Kevin? Why was that? Hurry, Kevin. Come on.
Awakening or your spiritual experience in Alcoholics Anonymous.
He wants to know about the awakening that I've had in Alcoholics Anonymous spiritually. Well, I think I answered that already. But in case you weren't listening, the fact that I'm here, the fact that I'm alive, the fact that I've got whatever I have in my life, Kevin, is that enough for you? Anyway, I better quit while I'm ahead. Thank you very much.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.